And we are back. So after that last sketch where I was messing around with sunvox, I had the idea of building some way to do that in Ableton, and I luckily was able to come up with a solution using just the built-in max patches that we've used throughout these sketches. So as you can see here, we've got two different lanes, A and B, and we get a randomizing that goes, every time this hits 127, it randomizes lane B. I'll open this up so we've got two lanes A and B here, and when it hits 0, it randomizes and also turns off lane B. So you can get kind of an endless number of variations there. So let's just take a peek under the hood and see what's happening here. This group rack here is just kind of a little bit of madness, and basically it comes down to the mapping here. We can use this note generator to just fire off a note into this randomizer. Every time this hits 127, it's going to randomize A. You'll see a note firing here. Boom. Every time we hit 127, yeah. So same thing with B. Every time we hit 0, we get a note. And it basically comes down to what's going on inside this nutty mapping stuff here. And I've kind of got like a double mapping going on. It's a little bit nutty, and you don't really need to mess with all that. Let's just make an empty one here. I'll drag and make a copy, and we can start to kind of fill it up with our own stuff. Let's mute that and open this one up, and we can minimize these sections here, and let's go ahead and select these and just remove this stuff. We want to leave this last utility because it kind of helps on both of these. I've got one utility at the end there, and that helps there not be such a volume dip in the center here. Okay, so let's just turn this operator on here, and I'm going to leave A blank, and that'll basically just mean that it fades. We have one lane and it just kind of fades the volume out, but we'll get a randomness in lane B every time we hit 0. And you can map using this randomizer, and we could duplicate this, and you can have as many of these in here as you want. We'll have the note kind of flow through them. So let's go ahead and map to this. Let's map to, I also want to get a chord happening here. Let's bust out the chord MIDI effect and map to these shifts, and let's have a look. Let's minimize that. There we go. And I've got a bit of smoothing happening here, so that's one thing to keep in mind. With this effect, you do have the option to have a little smoothing in this box here, so you can get some interesting stuff going on that way. And let's duplicate this note generator here and set this to 2000. Actually, let's map to the time here, and yeah, pretty. And let's see, delay time. Let's pull this down so we don't, get such long waits between notes. Let's try this here. And let's give ourselves a little bit of attack. We could, of course, randomize all of these. One thing you can do, I found was interesting when I was doing some tests for this, are you can group the instrument, and let's just make a copy of that. We can set up a chain here, and we can hit this map button. We can select this green section here, map it to a macro knob, so we can watch it go up like that. And then of course we can randomize this chain selector macro knob here. which is useful. So if you wanted to have a bunch of different timbres, a bunch of different instruments, it doesn't all have to be operator. You can put, whatever VST plugins you want in there. Sounding like an old Nintendo. Let me pull one out of here. I had created a noise maker, if I can find it. I think it's this vinyl distortion, which produces a click noise, and you can run it through these auto filters with set to MS2 and the res up to 100%. You get these tones out of the auto filter, which is kind of fun. So let's copy that and bring it into an empty chain. Let's paste it in here, and let's set this up. Actually, it didn't paste right in there, did it? Because these are just effects. So one thing I found, if you don't have an instrument in there, things don't behave properly for whatever reason. So we'll just turn this off. And let's hide this stuff and it seems to want to play until we add a fade for whatever reason. Then it if we don't have a fade, it just constantly plays sound through, which is useful if you want tails, I guess. Tails off of your... So you can sort of build up really crazy effects in there. Obviously this isn't the best sounding, in my opinion, example, but it kind of shows you what you can do. All right, let me bust out one of my favorite plugins is the melda granular multiband, and I love melda stuff because you can hit this button, you can hit this random button, and it picks a random preset, and then this dice randomizes the preset itself. And you can open the hood and build some pretty intense presets with melda plugins. So we can group this here, and if we want, let's make a copy of this here, and we'll do the same thing we did with the instruments just a second ago. Let's add a little bit of fade there so we don't get that tail. And maybe we'll add a little overlap because there can be moments when both of these play at the same time. Let's randomize this one, and I'm not sure even which one I'm looking at or playing with here. So let's map this to the macro knob. I guess I just unmapped it. There we go, finally mapped. Now let's randomize that. Kind of an extreme example, but so it'll either be this preset or this preset. And let's open up our randomization section. Let's just map that to that. And so kind of extreme results here. We haven't really dialed it in perfectly well, but that usually takes, for me, 20 minutes to an hour to get like really good layout. I mean, of course, we're dealing with a lot of randomness too. So like, this is an interesting sound. So you just sometimes want to hit this, go down to 0, and re-randomize it to get something new every time. So yeah, I think that almost about sums it up. Oh, finally, yeah, if you come up with a configuration you really like, just name it, and you can drag and drop it, if you have like a special folder where you like to keep a lot of your rack presets. I like to keep them, at least for the sketch project, within the sketch folder. So under the rack section, noise generators, turn that off. And now we can just drag that in here and hope for the best, fingers crossed. Yeah, so kind of crazy and a little over the top sometimes with full-on randomness like that. But yeah, that about sums it up for this concept, and hope you enjoyed. And yeah, until next time, happy sketching and experimenting.